this is a really interesting one. We got the merge coming up on the 15th. And Kyle McDonald told CoinDesk TV that the Bitcoin network may be regulated away because of its energy consumption. He's also saying that Ethereum merge is going to essentially prove that you don't any longer need proof of work, and that once that is realized, the price of Bitcoin will crash and Ethereum will be the only thing left standing. Sometimes I can't, but let's go ahead and take a listen to him. We will actually do a video here so you can hear this. All right, let's get into it.
The Ethereum Foundation claims the much anticipated merge this September from proof of work to proof of stake will reduce the blockchain network's energy consumption by 99.95%. Joining us now is Kyle McDonald. He's an independent researcher. Hello there, Kyle. So 99.95%. Is that realistic for that amount of energy consumption to come down with the merge?
Yeah, it's a very realistic number when you're moving from a system that's basically about generating as many random numbers as fast as possible with 10 million GPUs across the world to a system that's running on maybe a few thousand computers that are pretty low energy.
Few thousand computers controlled all essentially by the same company. Amazon and AWS. So yeah, you reduce, your energy consumption, but you compromise your entire infrastructure from a security perspective, which is really interesting. And from a censorship perspective, which is what we've been covering, running up to the merge the whole time.
It's going to make a huge difference, and it doesn't really atone for the past, but it'll be a step in the right direction.
So where are we getting these kind of figures to begin with? I mean, in terms of modeling, you've been kind of critical of the way these things are done in general. But how does one model, let's say, the Ethereum network's the current usage for proof of work? And is it really 99% of whatever that number is, or is it what are we getting here? Like, and what are we using as a base, and how does it come up?
Sure. So I created the Ethereum emissions tracker to mirror the process behind the Cambridge Bitcoin Electricity Consumption Index, which, I wanted an estimate that was based in the hash rate, hardware, and typical worker configurations, data center overhead, grid loss, hashing efficiencies, power supply efficiencies, mining hardware mix, all of this stuff. Where are the actual workers located around the world, and what are the different international emissions factors? This is a slightly different process than Alex DeVries uses, for example, but I trust his work in a different way. He takes a more top-down approach from this economic argument, where he basically says, okay, let's assume that miners use about 60% of their revenue to pay for electricity. We know their revenue from the hash rate and the miner rewards. So let's just assume that the electricity is based on a certain set of kind of typical GPUs, and then we can make some estimate of the total electricity usage. I'm going the opposite direction. I'm kind of starting with the numbers and then working up from there, which is the same thing that Cambridge does.
I mean, if I can recall, his GPU numbers always seemed a little bit out of date from what I remember, or at least at the time that I checked the notes. And that obviously would affect sort of the actual energy consumption because he would use that. I'm talking about Alex DeVries. But how you're doing it differently? You're saying you're taking it from that point upwards. Is that correct?
Yeah,
or?
Sure. Yeah. So, the main difference again is Alex starts with miner rewards and makes an economic argument about how much electricity is being used. I'm starting with the hash rate and then looking at the hardware and making a technical argument for how much electricity must be used. And I am.
So I don't understand how accurate that can be when we aren't even aware of the specialized hardware, the amount of specialized hardware that's being run, right? So, if you're just calculating off of RTX 3080 hash rates and power consumptions, then you're missing out on all of the HX 175 or 175 HXs that supposedly Hut 8's got these special or even more specialized GPUs than anybody else. So they're probably even more efficient. And then if we talk about ASICs, you got to calculate all that in. averaging out like power consumption, hash rate to wattage, based on like most of these arguments I've seen are like based around RTX 3080s. It just isn't accurate. And I don't think we have accurate information. Like the only people that really know are going to be the like Silicon and Bitmain and HUD 8, right? And NVIDIA themselves, right? That's pretty much the only people that will actually know accurate numbers on this.
I did put a lot of work into estimating GPU efficiency for this project, and it has increased over time, from 2016, around, 0.2 mega hash per second per watt, to currently around 0.4 mega hash per second per watt. So there's been about a doubling in efficiency. And if you didn't account for that, that would be a big skew in your estimate of the energy usage. But, it's also important to remember, we talk about efficiency in the context of proof of work. You can't really make proof of work more efficient, right? You can just kind of transition who's doing the work from one area to another. The amount of energy that goes into proof of work is the thing that is actually necessary for.
No, efficiency would be how much work can be done for how much power. So you can always improve efficiency on proof of work. It doesn't make any sense, bro.
The system to maintain consensus, and it's not something you can ever make more efficient. We can't, have faster GPUs and somehow use less energy. Proof of work is not like protein.
That's exactly how it works. You have more power for less energy. That's actually like what computer hardware companies try to do. Like they're directly incentivized to do that. Do more work for less energy. That's the actual entire goal of all like manufacturers for PC parts. It doesn't matter if it's memory or like CPU or GPU or motherboard or the power supply itself. That is the entire goal.
Folding or like machine learning, where as the technology gets better, it uses less energy. It always uses energy that is matched to the valuation of the coin.
I would add to that, though, that proof of work is revered for its security, and it's secure because it consumes so much energy and would require so much more energy to hack the network. But if proof of stake is successful, what does that mean for proof of work chains in the long run, do you think?
That's a really good question. This has been like the theoretical story for a long time, but practically it's just not the case that proof of work is more secure. We see probably half of the volume of what Ethereum has happening every day on proof of stake chains already. There's not really a lot of evidence in the real world that proof of stake is fundamentally less secure than proof of work.
Because Solana hasn't gone down 7 times this year. You f***ing moron. I can't, guys. Look, Kyle, bro, first of all, you're saying that, essentially for more power, more hash rate, you're always going to use more power, right? Which is literally the opposite of what all the companies that are building even ASIC hardware are trying to do, which is more hash for less power. And then now you want to tell me that there's been no evidence of proof of stake being compromised when that's literally happened 7 times this year already. Like, honestly, this feels like cognitive dissonance at this point. This is wild. I think we're done with this at this point. I mean, there's basically no real data behind any of his points. I wanted to bring it up with you guys, though. So this is the reason why. Well, let's get to the reason why Bitcoin price may crash, right? That's the whole point, right? That's what we want to see.
When it comes to
it's just so painful.
the real world implementations. And I think if we see, the Ethereum merge is not just about Ethereum. I think after the merge, investors and regulators are going to realize that proof of work was never really necessary. We're slowly going to see a huge crash in the Bitcoin price.
Okay, there you go. So because we've seen no evidence, not at all, like Solana going down 7 times is not evidence of proof of stake being, insecure, having issues, right? So because we have zero evidence of proof of stake coins that are currently processing just as many transactions as Ethereum is on proof of work, which I also am not really too confident that those numbers are correct, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I haven't looked that up, but because these false narratives, these things that are not true, which is proof of stake being completely secure, what you are going to see is that investors and everybody's going to realize that proof of work has never been needed, and therefore the price of Bitcoin will crash. That's what Kyle McDonald is saying here. When in fact, you could probably honestly see the opposite of this happen in the event that the merge does not go well, right? So if the Ethereum blockchain starts showing signs and symptoms of proof of stake similar to Solana and starts going down regularly, we could say that the opposite will happen. Bitcoin price will remain right where it's at and Ethereum will crash. That we could make that same, at the end of the day, there's 2 things that could happen. Either the merge goes well and the price initially pumps because nobody can withdraw their stake anyways, or the merge goes terribly and basically it starts with DeFi contagion of ETH, the wrapped token of the staked ETH, first collapsing, thereby, of course, causing a contagion across DeFi, and then eventually Ethereum crashes, and probably, honestly, the entire crypto market in general, at least all of the coins in general, will crash. And that is a potential, right? So those are the 2 things that could happen depending on how essentially the merge goes down. More than likely, we're talking about the first happening. I think at this point, I think that we'll see a semi-successful deal, and then we'll have to wait until you'll see a price pump. The early stakers are going to realize that their revenue generation from staking is not that good. So once staking unlocks 6 months to a year to 7 to 10 years from now, because we know how long it takes Ethereum devs to actually get this stuff out, they'll unlock staking, and everybody that is currently staking will want to take their profits and their revenue off of their early stakes, and they will have an initial crash of the coin once that's done, way post merge, right? Earliest 6 months unstaking will be unlocked, as from my understanding, that's the absolute earliest. So 6 months from September 15th before that happens, and then, like I said, more than likely that's how that will go down. In the process, what we'll start to probably also see is an accumulation by large, powerful entities of Ethereum so that they can control the network. And then we will start to see censorship work its way into the Ethereum network thanks to its centralization on things like AWS. And then, of course, its centralization with the type of people that are controlling the consensus and execution layers. So that's pretty much what I see happening. Of course, not financial advice, but I do think at this point, Ethereum, with the move to proof of stake, its biggest risk will be both censorship and basically, like we've talked about before, an incentive for the people that are securing the network to not secure the to not continue to secure the network, because the revenue generation will not be good enough to support that. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Crypto Mining Show. You can check out the full episode here or more crypto content down here. Also, I'd like you to check out my locals page at sonofatech.locals.com, where you can become a member for free or choose to be a $5 a month supporter that unlocks additional content.